When it comes to From Software games, there's really no shortage of giant enemies. And Elden Ring is really no different. I mean, we've got the Dragonkin soldiers, the Guardian golems, and of course the trolls, who we're going to be talking about today.
They have a cave troll.
So the average fantasy troll most people probably think of is either from Skyrim or the ones from the Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter films. Polarizing From Software title Dark Souls 2 features one that resembles the latter, and I believe is the only other time a troll has been featured in the series. In Elden Ring, however, troll just seems to be a nickname given to the lesser giants that betrayed their forebears, the much larger, greater giants that worship the fell god of fire. Giants are somewhat of a staple when it comes to the Soulsborne series and can be found in some form in all of the games.
Yhorm, old friend. I, Siegward of the Knights of Katarina, have come to uphold my promise. Let the sun shine upon this Lord of Cinder.
Often as large enemies and occasionally as blacksmiths, these giants have kind of varied in appearance across the series, but more or less they fill the same role as the trolls of Elden Ring. Except unlike the giants of previous titles, these guys are actually a bit more fleshed out when it comes to their lore. So way back during the Crucible of Life, which was also the era of the Great Tree, said to have been a much different world logic than that of the Erd Tree, the trolls of this age lived with the giants in the snowy mountaintops of the north. These natives of a frozen climate were clad in a thick white fur, making them sort of resemble the frost trolls of Skyrim at a distance, but their Sasquatch-like appearance kind of hides their intelligence.
You eat babies. You have to survive. Everyone knows that. Ain't your fault.
We eat berries and mushrooms, you fool!
And unlike the ones of Skyrim, these trolls possess the ability to swing big-ass swords. Now these guys, much like their giant progenitors, worshipped a giant one-eyed god of fire, often referred to as the Fell God, whose likeness manifests itself on the torsos of the giants, making it resemble sort of a tiki head-like visage engraved in their body. Now towards the end of the previous age, during what would become the dawn of the Erd Tree, the goddess Marika the Eternal, and her consort Godfrey the Lord of the Battlefield, would wage a brutal conquest on the lands between, and made no exception when it came to the mountaintops of the giants. The Golden Armies would gain allies in the form of the Knights of Zamor, a fringe race of ice-wielding warriors that had been sworn enemies of the giants for generations. And out of either a desire to be free of the giants and their frozen mountaintops, or possibly due to promises of freedom from the Fell God, whose influence was all they'd ever known, the trolls would betray the giants, and despite the aid of the Fell God residing in every last fire giant, they would be defeated, and pretty much exterminated to one last man. Marika would curse that last dude to eternally tend the flame of ruin, as she knew there was no real way of her to destroy it. She then had an order of warriors formed to guard the eternal flame, or the flame of ruin, but over time those guys would slowly grow to worship it, but that's kind of a tale for another video and one that I got coming this week. The trolls themselves also likely possessed the visage of the Fell God on their torso as well at some point, as their bodies now house a void roughly in the same place as the Aku Aku face would have been, which is in contrast to the giants of previous titles, whose face usually housed the void. Yhorm and the Dark Souls 2 giants are who come to mind. Those giants were also ravaged by a specific king and queen, but, Dark Souls 2, not exactly a popular title. Now, a closer examination of this chest cavity reveals that the trolls possess a PS5 twisted in their roots, which I believe are more rare than a black Charizard. Now, this slab that they appear to have in their chest, I believe is the thing that allows them to exist free of the will of their fell god, who is said to still lurk amongst the fire giants. It sort of appears as though they removed the fell god, or the fire god, quite literally from the trolls and replaced it with this tombstone looking thing. And every troll in the game has this. At first I thought it was just some means of control for the enslaved ones, but that doesn't seem likely, as the ones in the mountaintops don't appear to be under anything's control. And the same can be said for E.G. the blacksmith. Now, in the years that followed the dawn of the Erd Tree, the trolls would kind of scatter across the winds, Some trolls would stay in the mountains though, but the ones that didn't would lose their fur in the process. A particular subgroup of trolls with skin made of rocks was called the Stone Digger Trolls. They became renowned as smiths after serving faithfully on the battlefield, although they would end up enslaved as miners eventually down the road. Some trolls swore oaths to the Queen of Caria, Renala. These trolls would go on to be knights and were treated as equals to the humans of Caria, fighting alongside them in battle. They were also granted these dope-looking greatswords with a glintstone embedded in them. But one particular Carian troll knight and blacksmith would be serving the last lunar princess by the events of the game, while another still proudly guards his queen's home. These knights, and presumably their offspring, were taught Carian blade sorceries, creating giant versions of the trademark glint blade spells. These trolls also wear the same spiked helmet as the Carian enchanted knights, signifying the equality the two races enjoyed in Caria. E.G.'s helmet, though, appears to have been inspired by the Nox mirror helms, and E.G. likely crafted it for himself due to the nature of his mistress Ranni's work. But unfortunately for the trolls that didn't settle in Caria, equality was not something that they could look forward to. Now the rest of the trolls that came down from the mountaintops and settled across the lands between would end up enslaved, as beasts of burden, impaled through the damned tombstone with a spike to carry a large hearse and a contingent of nobles, or as enslaved fighting units. And by the time of the game, most of these trolls had lost their minds, though some would still retain faint memories of their heritage as heroes of the war with the giants, and would cling to their now faded and chipped gold greatswords. One of these legendary heroes of that age is still around in some form, even by the events of the game. The troll warrior Theodrix, like many warriors before him and after him, would partake in the powerful and alluring Dragon Communion, and eventually would fall so deeply into it that he was transformed into a big-ass magma worm that absolutely hates octopuses, demonstrating that even trolls can be consumed by the power of dragon hearts. Other trolls would lose their minds in a different way, either in some part due to the horrendous treatment they'd received at the hands of the Golden Order, despite the trolls' help largely contributing to America's victory in the first place, or due to their past association with alluring fire gods. But a decent-sized group of the trolls appears to have thrown in their lot with the frenzied flame. Residing at a sort of holy ground for the Three Fingers, these trolls are probably the most deadly out of all types of subclasses, as they can use a giant version of the Flame of Frenzy. However, they do live amongst frenzied humans and rats, showing that equality through insanity is totally possible. So basically, the other trolls that didn't settle in Caria had to go insane to receive the same treatment as the ones in Caria, which is pretty fucked. One final observation, though, that I had was the trolls seem to at least partially be composed of earth. Like, there's some stone diggers that are entirely made of rock, but the average troll seems to be made of earth and roots. Even their hair looks like dreadlocks that are made of roots. They do bleed, though, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, as the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. It also states somewhere that every lunar princess had a Carian knight, and I think it's possible that E.G. is her knight, although Blythe surely fills that role, although he's more referred to as a shadow, and is similar in purpose and function to America's Shadow Malekith that we meet as a beast clergyman. Also, I referred to the trolls of the Yellow Annex ruins as throwing in their lot with the frenzy, where we really don't know how voluntary throwing in their lot with the frenzy might have been. They might have just been afflicted by it, as it's often called an affliction, like a sickness. So we don't know if it chose it or not, but, you know, speculation. And with the Carian Knights, I'm pretty sure they're not insane, as obviously E.G. can speak and isn't insane. And the other Carian Knight we see isn't insane. He's just kind of guarding his post. And then there's Bowles, who, you know, I didn't really mention in the video, but he's just in an Evergel. He seems to have maintained his faculties, as he can still, you know, cast sorceries. But that doesn't really prove anything either. One last thing I want to mention is that the trolls that stayed in the mountaintops of giants appear to have retained some kind of connection to the fell god, as they're able to use his incantations in combat, whereas I don't think any of the other troll types are able to use this. It sort of seems like that description that mentioned that the fell god still lurks within the fire giants also seems to include the lesser giants, or the trolls that remained in the mountaintops and still have their fur and all that, because like I said, no other type is able to use fire like fell god incantations. But I believe that's all the info I had on the trolls. I found the trolls really interesting in this game, which is a rarity when it comes to fantasy games. But I hope you guys found it informative. You know, if you liked it, please like it. If you disliked it, please dislike it. If I got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments. If you have any counter theories, please also let me know in the comments. If you like my videos, please subscribe. That'd be really dope. You guys are really blowing me away with the feedback. I really enjoy that. My next video will probably be either about the fire monks and the fell god, or about the Kaiden mercenaries. But my demigod video is still coming. I think I might do that one live. I'm not sure yet. But you guys have a good one. I'll see you next time.
My purpose is nearing its end. I've served Lady Rani for as long as I can remember. It has been a long and wondrous journey. Now Lady Rani is in your hands. I pray that you serve her well, unto the very end.